So today, we're going to dive into a novel that just cracked open the polite, polished surface of American literature to show everyone the brutal reality hiding underneath. Let's get into the powerful and, yeah, tragic story of Maggie, a girl of the streets.
Okay, so just imagine this. You write a story that is so honest, so unflinching, that literally every single publisher you go to turns you away. That's what happened to the author Stephen Crane. He believed in this story so much that he actually paid out of his own pocket just to get it printed.
So what was it? What was so shocking about this little book? What kind of truth was it showing that polite society back in the 1890s was just not ready to deal with? Well, that's the big question we're going to unpack.
To really get Maggie's story, you first have to understand the world she's in. And this isn't just some background scenery, okay? It's an active, crushing force. It's really a character in its own right, the slums of New York's Bowery. This was a world of just relentless chaos. I mean, for a little kid like Maggie, home was a drunken, abusive father and a mother whose rage was this constant, terrifying thing. It's the kind of place where, just to survive, you had to become as hard and cold as the streets themselves.
And to really get this world, you have to look at the people trapped in it. They each kind of represent something, you know? Maggie, she's this little flicker of innocence in all the darkness. Her brother, Jimmy, he's what happens when that innocence gets beaten right out of you. Their mother, wow, she's the perfect example of the cruel hypocrisy of it all. And then there's Pete. Pete. He represents a very, very dangerous kind of hope.
But right in the middle of all this grit and grime, we focus on Maggie. Because somehow, in a place that seems basically designed to crush your spirit, she held on to this quiet, fragile little dream of getting out.
And this right here, this is the core conflict of the whole book. On one side, you've got Maggie's inner world, this dream of beauty, of gentleness, like a flower trying to grow through cracks in the pavement. And on the other side, you've got the Bowery's reality, just this brick wall of violence and decay. She's living in two worlds at once, and you just know they're on a collision course.
So how does a dreamer try to escape a nightmare? Well, you look for a door, any door. And for Maggie, that door looked a whole lot like a man named Pete.
Now this is so important. Maggie doesn't really fall in love with Pete. She falls in love with the idea of Pete. He's everything her world isn't, and she grabs onto that illusion with every ounce of strength she has.
And you can totally see why she's so taken with him, right? He's confident, he's stylish, he tells her stories about theaters and nice things. He's a ticket to a whole other life. But Crane makes it really clear that underneath all that flashy charm, there's nothing. He's completely hollow, a perfect trap for a girl who is just desperate to escape.
And this is where the story takes its turn. From here on out, it just accelerates into this downfall that's so fast, so merciless, it honestly leaves you breathless. The illusion can't last. Reality is coming for Maggie, and it's coming hard.
First, the big blow. The doorway out, it slams right in her face. The second a fancier woman comes along, Pete just tosses Maggie aside without a second thought. And just like that, her dream is shattered.
And then comes the second blow, which is maybe even crueler. She goes home looking for something, I don't know, maybe just shelter, and she's thrown out by her own mother, this raging hypocrite who screams about damnation, all while being the cruelest person in the story.
And finally, with no one left and nowhere to go, the city itself, this huge, anonymous, unforgiving place, it just swallows her whole. She is completely alone, erased by the very world she tried so hard to run from.
You know, that's what makes this tragedy so haunting. There's no big, dramatic climax, no final scream for justice. It's just silence, a quiet fading into the shadows, completely forgotten.
So that's Maggie's fall. But the power of this book, it goes way beyond just the plot. So why was it so revolutionary? Why does this grim little story from 1893 still hit so hard today?
Well, the answer really comes down to a literary movement called naturalism. See, Crane wasn't just telling a sad story. He was making this powerful, almost scientific argument that people are products of their environment and their circumstances. This was a radical idea at the time, really influenced by new thinking like Darwin's theories. It basically suggested that for someone like Maggie, born where she was, there was never really a chance to begin with.
Crane held a mirror up to society, and the reflection was ugly. At a time when books usually rewarded good people and punished bad ones, he showed a world where the opposite was true. A world that preached one thing but practiced another, where being kind was actually a weakness that could get you killed, and where your entire destiny was pretty much sealed the moment you were born.
I mean, you have to remember the context here. The popular books back then were often really romantic and sentimental, with clear, easy moral lessons. And then Crane comes along and gives readers something raw, real, and deeply unsettling. He just refused to look away from the harsh reality of city life for the poor, and by showing it without a filter, he pretty much changed American literature forever.
So, where does all this leave us? What's the lasting echo of Maggie's story? What are we supposed to take away from it?
The genius of Stephen Crane is that he never tells you what to think. He's not a preacher. He's more like a reporter, or maybe a painter. He just shows you the scene in all of its brutal, honest detail, and then he forces you to deal with the uncomfortable, unforgettable truth of it all.
And what he shows us leaves us with this one final, haunting question. Was Maggie's tragedy her own fault? Was she just weak? Or was she a victim of a world that was just so merciless, so brutal, that a gentle dream like hers never, ever stood a chance? The book doesn't give you the answer. It just leaves that question hanging there, echoing in the shadows.